When does a jury find beyond a reasonable doubt for acquittal? Imagine sitting in a courtroom, listening to a case that could change someone's life. The question is, when does the jury decide they are not convinced enough to convict? That moment hinges on a very important standard called beyond a reasonable doubt. This phrase is the heart of the criminal justice process. It means the evidence must be so strong that no logical or reasonable person could doubt the defendant's guilt. If there is even a tiny doubt that a reasonable person might have, the jury must find the defendant not guilty. It's not enough that the evidence suggests guilt or that it's likely the person committed the crime. The jury has to be absolutely sure, based on the evidence, that the person is guilty. If they have any doubt that a reasonable person would consider significant, they are required to acquit. Every person accused of a crime is presumed innocent until proven guilty. That means the burden of proof is on the prosecution. They need to present evidence that convinces the jury beyond a reasonable doubt. The defense does not need to prove innocence. They just need to challenge the prosecution's case. During deliberations, jurors review all the evidence, witness testimony, physical evidence, expert opinions, and more. The judge instructs them that if, after careful consideration, they have a reasonable doubt about guilt, they must find the defendant not guilty. Reasonable doubt isn't a vague or imaginary doubt. It's based on common sense and the evidence or lack of evidence. If the jury is not convinced beyond a reasonable doubt, they must return a verdict of not guilty. That verdict results in an acquittal, meaning the case ends there for that defendant. This decision is final for that trial, and the person cannot be tried again for the same crime. Judges also play a role in this process. Before the case goes to the jury, or even after a guilty verdict, a judge can grant a judgment of acquittal if they believe no reasonable jury could find guilt based on the evidence. This is a safeguard against wrongful convictions. In real courtrooms, the beyond a reasonable doubt standard shapes everything. Prosecutors must present clear and convincing evidence. Defense attorneys focus on creating doubt by challenging evidence and cross-examining witnesses. Judges make sure everyone understands what reasonable doubt means. If the jury decides the evidence isn't enough, they must acquit. If they find guilt, the defendant can appeal, arguing that the evidence was not enough to meet the standard. Appellate courts review whether any reasonable jury could have found guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, not whether they agree with the verdict. So, in simple terms, a jury finds a person not guilty, an acquittal, when the prosecution doesn't prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. This high standard protects the presumption of innocence and makes sure only those whose guilt is certain are convicted. It guides how evidence is presented, challenged, and judged in every criminal trial.